Welcome to our Saturday crafternoon. I hope you guys are having a great weekend out there. I see a lot of people out on the chat having a great time. I love it. So welcome everyone. If you're catching us for the first time, my name is Nancy with GiftsHQ and I host these weekly live sessions and we talk about everything crafty, from knitting, crocheting, decoupage, all kinds of crafts. So if that's something that you're into, so you're certainly in the right place. So let's just say hello to a few friends that I see out there. I see Amy Bulls, Annette. I see Boricua Sewing and Crafts. I see Crafting with Robin. Donna Phillips. Hey, girl. Wow, how are you? I see Evelyn. I see Gail. I see Jackie. I see Judy. I see Linda. I see 1 Minute Tips, Robin's Quilt Basket, and Yvonne Hudson. Well, thank you guys so much for joining. And I just want to say happy National Quilting Day. So not sure if you caught that trivia that I like to start off with. That was one of the answers to the question. So if you got that right, today is the third Saturday of March. So National Quilting Day it is. It is also Global Recycling Day, if you didn't know that. So make sure you do your due diligence to recycle and have some fun with that. Gosh, guys, I think that we have so many things to cover today. It's really going to be a fun one. I'm really excited about this. I've got a lot of things to show you. And let's just recap what we talked about last week. So last week, we did a couple things. We showed you some fabric and yarn hauls. So if you didn't catch that, that was going to be live number 33. Today is live number 34. And we did some fabric and yarn hauls. We also looked at a yo-yo maker, had a little fun with that. And then I had you guys watch me use my yarn swift. So if you remember, love my little yarn swift. And I was able to use the swift along with my ball winder, and I just wanted to show you guys the results of that is my little ball of yarn. So I absolutely love it. I think it's really cute. I did put a piece of cardboard in the middle just to kind of have it keep its shape. And then what I also like to do is just kind of keep the tag of the actual hank. So if you recall, let me just grab one from back here. Kind of dropped a couple there. So this is what a hank would look like. So this is what it started off with. And then I went and used the swift and the winder and we turned it into the ball. And now I'm able to use these for my projects. So what I like to put on here is when the hank comes into, when you purchase the hank, it has a little tag on the top and it has a wealth of information. And we talked about the things that come onto these labels. And so I like to keep the label with the yarn that I'm using. So I kind of just rolled it up and put it inside. This way I will always know the weight of the yarn, the recommended crochet hook, the recommended knitting needle, all that pertinent information that I think is really great to have. So I just kind of squish it in the middle, have it there just until I use up all the yarn. So let me put this to the side because if you recall, this was and I believe it was a light. Let me see here. This was by Yarn Bee and this was a number 1. So very fine yarn. And if you recall, this is what it would look like. You can see that it is pretty fine there. So what did I do with this yarn? So not only did I put it in a little ball, but I wanted to kind of just test it out and do a little project. So I did just kind of knit up a tiny little kind of coin purse per se. So I thought it was really cute. It's double knitted, of course. Turned it inside out here. It's just a little pouch for me to just put little knickknacks in. Just something that I wanted to, you know, pull together because I wanted to see what the yarn looked like when it was actually knitted. And as you can see, you can still see some of that metallic coming through. I think it's really, really gorgeous. I love this yarn. Going to have a ton of fun with this. So wanted to just kind of test out the little swatch, and then I made just a little project just to get an idea of how the yarn works and feels in my hands and through the machine. So I did do this with the Central machine actually, and it wasn't too bad. Went through the machine pretty well, didn't really have any issues. So I like to kind of audition my fabrics before I tackle them for any big projects. So this is just kind of my way of testing things out. So I hope you guys enjoyed that video from last week, because I thought that was a lot of fun. What we have in store for this week is actually a couple of projects. So I definitely want to share that with you. Let's see now. Is there anything that I didn't cover from last week? So yeah, that was pretty much what we did last week. And so for this week, got a couple things I want to show you. Now, one of the things is a very small little haul that I did. Of course, my beloved Dollar Tree. And I just wanted to show this to you guys because it is out there. And I thought they were pretty cute. So if you want to tackle any small projects, I know Easter's coming up. So I did find over in the fabric section, we have 100% jute or burlap. And I thought the designs were really cute. You know, I think if you guys want to make some type of a little bag to put the little Easter, you know, toys or things that you want to give to the kids, I thought this was a really cute one that they put out there. It's got these little bees on here. Some of them are just polka dots, and I really love the little daisy one. And I'll just kind of open them up so you can see them. So this is the daisy. I thought that was really pretty. You know, you can make something really cute with this. And the size that they give you is really not that bad. It is 18 by 21, so pretty much like a fat quarter size. So not too bad. You can get probably about 2 decent sized bags on here for kids. And it also had these that were just these little stripes, but I really like the colors on them. So I thought those were cute. Kind of neat, huh? And they had the polka dots. They had white polka dots and they had this teal color. And I thought those were cute too. So I didn't grab too many. I only grabbed about 1 or 2 of each so that I can make just a little project with them. But I wanted to show these over to you so that you guys are aware that they're out there, because it's pretty recent that I saw this come out. So let me just see. Wow, I see the chat is just like exploding, you guys. Alrighty, let's see. Boricua Sewing and Craft says, oh my god, these fabrics are so cute. Robin's Cofax says, cute fabric. You can use those for applique on a tote bag. Yeah, absolutely. Definitely. I mean, this is just, you know, it's Dollar Tree, so it's really inexpensive. And they're really cute designs. So you can do a lot of things with them. And you don't have to feel like, oh my god, that fabric was so expensive. I don't want to waste it on just, you know, these little itty bitty projects. So that's what I really like about the fabric from the dollar store that they have there. You don't feel guilty about using it for little bits here and there. You know, it's just fabric and it's pretty inexpensive. In this case, it's jute. So it's definitely something that's affordable, and it's a great practice tool. You know, so if you want to practice doing things with the jute type of fabric, you know, you don't have to go to the big box stores and pick up like a half yard or things like that. You can just pick up, you know, just a little bundle here, and that'll be enough for you to practice with. So absolutely. Wow, I see Janny Poo 54. Hi, all the way from Scotland. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining. Let's see. And Moriko Sewing and Craft says, I need to go to my dollar store and see if they have improved their crafting section. Yeah, I really hope they have, because I mean, down here, I'm in Florida, and the Dollar Tree really has a lot of a selection, and they pretty much made like almost a whole aisle of just like crafting stuff. They've really exploded with all of those tools. So let me just move on to another fabric that I saw, and this one is not jute. This is actually 100% cotton, and I thought it was a really pretty color. So I just grabbed a few, and I thought, you know, with Easter coming, these are really pretty, and they will definitely, you know, make something really nice. And I like that it's 100% cotton. So really, really pretty. Was excited about that. So these are just a few of the things that I picked up at the Dollar Tree. Now, I also picked up a couple of tool items. So they had, and I don't know if they've had this before. This is the first time I actually saw it. They have water-soluble marking pencils, and it's a 2-pack. So I thought this is great because I use that all the time. I usually use the pens, but this is great for anyone who needs to mark up fabric temporarily. You know, this is something that would be great to use. However, it does say, do not make dark, heavy marks. So, a little bit of a warning with this. You know, it's from the Dollar Tree. They are water soluble, but I wouldn't use it on really heavy on this, because you're probably going to have a hard time taking it off. So just a little warning on that. So I just wanted to show that over to you guys. And I want to kind of get to a couple of the things that I want to talk about today. So let me see if I missed anything on the Dollar Tree stuff. I think that was everything that I wanted to show you. So I showed you the little pouch that I made with the yarn. So I want to kind of talk about something that I made. And I hope you guys like it. I mean, I liked it. This is coming back with some fabric that I purchased not too long ago. I believe I shared this with you guys. And I made a little tote bag out of the fabric. And let me see if I have it back here. Yeah, so if you remember, this was one of the fabrics that I purchased, and I believe it was in Hobby Lobby. So I was looking at the time for fabric that I could use for paper piecing and pulling things together. So I wanted something with a lot of colors, bright all over the place, no real pattern in mind, just kind of like an all over the place thing. So I did purchase this fabric, and I decided to have a little fun with this. And I want to show you something. It's pretty old. It's been out there for a while. Some of you who are the expert sewists probably already know all about this, but I just love using it. I love the way it's a product that's changes the texture of the fabric. So you'll see here how we started off with a plain, I believe it was just a fat quarter. I think it was about 18 inches by 22 inches is what I started off with. And what I did in order to create this little tote bag, let me just raise this up to you because I'm not sure how you guys will see this on the camera. But if you notice, it looks a little crinkly, right? Like it's not a straight fabric. So how did I change the fabric to be a plain fabric to something that looks all crinkly? Well, it's very easy, and it's something that's been around for a really long time. I love playing with it. I think it's a lot of fun, and it is called Bosal Stitch Steam. Now, this is the Bosal brand. There is another brand that's made out of Pellon, and I believe the Pellon brand, let me just find my little reference. Let me get you the name. Hang on one second. So Pellon has a similar brand. Now this is a specialty interface, and Pellon calls it P Magic or Fabric Magic. So for those of you guys who use the Pellon brand, You would look for P Magic. If you look for Bosal, it's called Stitch and Steam. They're the exact same thing. Both of them is going to use heat. It is heat activated, and it will use the heat to shrink your fabric about 30% or so. So it's a really fun way of doing a little project that will basically change your fabric completely. So let me just grab it here so you can take a look at what it looks like. So as you can see, it's a very light interface. You can barely kind of see my hand through it just slightly, but it is pretty sheer, not too much. Very, very light weight. And what you would basically do is you would take this fabric and you would kind of put it underneath your fabric. And then you would just have your sewing machine do a bunch of stitches on here. And what you would do for your sewing machine is you don't want to just take your sewing machine and do a straight stitch. That's not really the idea. In order to get this effect that you want, you kind of have to not sew on a straight line. I know, right? What? Kind of feels a little weird, right? So I know when we're sewing, we're always trying to, you know, sew that perfect either 1/4 inch seam allowance or that 1/2 inch seam allowance, and you want to do that straight line and get it all perfect. So if you're one of those people that just can't get it to go perfect, this is the perfect project for you, because you don't have to worry about sewing that straight line. You're just all over the place. So when you're sewing onto this, and I'll give you some examples of what I have. When you are sewing this, let me just throw this over to the side. And I'll give you a couple of examples. I'm going to show you this one because we're going to talk about threads too in just a minute. So here's an example where I took a little swatch and you'll see these ugly little lines all over the place. I even crossed them out in some places. And you see the dark thread kind of came up on the top. So it doesn't really look very pretty, right? Because you have that dark thread kind of all over the place. But as you can see, I didn't really sew straight lines. I was like squiggly, moving around all over the place, crisscrossed in a couple of places. You know, what I am doing there is I'm trying to create the barrier of where the fabric is going to gather once I hit it with the steam. So depending on the fabric choice that you make, you will need to think about the type of thread that you're using for this. Okay, so the thread, if you're picking a fabric, I'm trying to see if I have another one here, but if you're picking a dark fabric such as this, you know, you will want to pick a thread that will try to match the fabric that you have selected. Now, this fabric is a dark color, and I did pick a dark thread. However, I'm not crazy about that look. I don't like that you could see all the lines going all over the place. So it wasn't really a good choice for me. But that's why I do these little practice swatches, right? So what I did, I said, well, let me try this with the white thread. So I went ahead and picked the white thread, and this was the result of the white thread. And you can see here, you can still see the thread. There's white thread all over the place, and you can see my stitching is going to be a little bit harder to see because it is white, but my threads are all over the place. Like I am stitching up and sideways, and you know, it's not a straight line, which is exactly what you want for this type of project. But it still didn't give me the result that I wanted, right? I don't want to see these lines. I want the crinkle of the fabric gathering, which is what the steam does, but I didn't want to have all the lines showing. So I did need to switch to another thread, and it gave me this type of look, which is exactly what I was looking for. So now I have that crinkled look from the product and you cannot see the thread. So how did I do that? Well, I used invisible thread, and we'll talk a little bit about invisible thread. But let me just show you what you can do, because it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to use invisible thread. It really depends on the type of fabric that you're selecting and what will work well with that fabric. So this fabric here is just a blue and white fabric, and I went ahead and stitched this with some white cotton thread. And you can see here, you could barely see the thread because it is white and it kind of blends in with the background. Now, I'm not sure if you could see the back end, but you can see my crazy lines all over the place. Nothing is straight. Everything's kind of wavy motion all over the place. So that's exactly what you want to do. And you can probably see it a little bit better when I'm showing you the black one, because you can see how the lines are just not straight and they're all over the place. So one thing you'll have to look at when you're actually using this product and you're setting it up to be able to do the stitch and steam method with Bosal, or even with the Pellon, is you don't want to sew straight lines. You want it to be all over the place. 2, you don't want your lines to be too close together. So I have a really small swatch, so I didn't have too much area to play with, but I want you to be able to see there's some areas where I actually crossed. And you can see that if you really look at those areas, and I'll try to really get it as close as I can, you don't see too much of a bubble in that area. And that is because, and let me see if I can show you here. So we've got this little triangle here, and then we've got another triangle over here. And you really don't see too much of a bubbly thing effect kind of happening in that area, because there's not enough space for the fabric to gather. So when you actually hit it with the steam of the iron, what it really is doing is penetrating that little interface that you have underneath, and it's kind of gathering the fabric up and squishing it together. Well, if you put your seams too close together, there's not enough space for the fabric to gather, so you're not going to have that bubbly effect that you want to have when you are actually doing the project. So you want to be mindful of that. Now, you also don't want to go too wide apart, because if you have your lines too wide from each other, it's not really going to gather. It's just kind of bubble up and just sit there, and it won't really give you the effect that you're looking for. So you kind of have to play with it a little bit, do a couple of swatches like I did, and then just play around till you get the type of effect that you're looking for. And remember, this is not anything that is really concentrated on. Like, you're just doing these lines going down, you know, just mindlessly. Don't even think about it. Turn your fabric around here and there. Like, don't keep it straight. Just continue to just move that wavy motion. And once you do that, you know, you'll end up with these types of lines where they're not straight and they'll just kind of have that little wave to it. So that's what I did when I was doing these. And then I think on the 3rd or 4th time, I actually got the result that I wanted. And then I went ahead and I did the bag. So let me just pause, because I know I did a lot of info right here. Let's see. Okay, so Judy says, so how would you wash this? Anything special? Judy, I honestly haven't washed it yet because I did a bag. So I'm not really using this on anything that is washable. But let me see if they have any washing recommendations on the actual package here. Let's see. Yeah, it doesn't really say on here, but remember, this is heat activated. So I'm not really interested in making clothes and things with this type of interface, although I'm sure that you can. But because I used it for a bag, I'm pretty sure that I can go ahead and throw it in the wash. But now you'll have to remember that this type of interface is heat sensitive. So you'll want to be mindful of that. Maybe you want to do a cool cycle in your dryer. But this is the type of project that I'm really not going to wash all that much. So not sure, but I'll have to test it out and get back to you because I've never really done it myself. So I'll let you know, Judy. Good question though. Let's see. Judy says, would the wetness from the washer and then putting it in the dryer make it bunch up more? No. So it's heat sensitive, and there's a couple of things going on with this. So you have your Bosal Stitch and Steam that you can use, and the way this kind of gathers up, and you can kind of see it on the package here, it kind of shows you the before and after. Let me just take the out of the plastic to eliminate the glare so you guys can see that well. So you have your before, which is just the flat interface, and then after you hit it with the steam, this is the type of effect that you're going to get on the fabric. So there's a few things going on. So that's what's going to happen once you hit it with the steam of the iron. Now, the other thing that is going to happen is in this particular case, I'm using invisible thread. And with invisible thread, you also want to be careful on the different types that are out there. So you definitely want to be able to use thread that you can use with the heat. There are certain ones, like I believe it's nylon. They do have nylon invisible thread, and this is kind of an older type version because nylon had a lot of issues with it. And with nylon, you can't really hit it with the iron. So then that becomes an issue if you're doing this type of project with it. So when you're looking to purchase your thread that you're going to be using for this type of project, I would not recommend the nylon thread. I would recommend a polyester type thread, and I'll show you the type of threads that I was able to get in just a minute. So in terms of the heat, once you hit it, I can tell you one thing. Once you hit it with the iron and you get your effect that you have here, you're not going to be able to stretch this fabric back out to put it back to its original state. That's just not going to happen. Once you have it in this type of state where it's already gathered the fabric, it's not going to go back to normal. Even if you take your fabric and you have your lines all drawn out, I can take this, you see I can pull on it, it's still flat even though I have my stitching in place. But once I hit it with the steam of the iron, this fabric is going to now gather up and crinkle up. I will not be able to undo that and get it back to this state. Once you have it, hit it with the steam of the iron, it's going to stay in this crinkled state. You're not going to be able to pull it back. So if you're worried about doing a project and then putting it in the wash and thinking it's going to come back to this nice flat little surface, it's not. It's going to stay in this wrinkled state. So definitely something to think about, you know, when you're doing these. And this is why I like to do the little swatches. I want to make sure that I'm doing things the way I want to do it, because once I hit it on a larger piece of fabric, I'm not going to be able to undo it. This is not one of those forgiving type projects where you can kind of undo things. Once you hit this with the steam of the iron, it's not going to go back to its original state. But I think it's super cute. I mean, look at this. How cute is this? You know, I loved it. Now I did put a little interface on the inside. So I added a little matching fabric, and I did some webbing that I added for the handles, but you can use your handles. You can do handles out of anything. You can do the handles out of the cloth. There's so many things you can do. Ribbon, you know, whatever you have on hand. I just like the webbing with this bag, and it's just something that I can use to carry, just to, you know, throw my little tablet, my phone, maybe some keys in there, and just go on my way. I didn't do any pockets or anything on the inside. I just kept it really simple. and just did this really quick. So something that's really cute. I think it came out adorable. I love the fabric, still in love with the colors, and I thought it was a lot of fun. But now let's talk about the thread, because the thread is a pretty big issue on here. You see how you can get multiple results from the different types of threads that you use. So let me just stick this back in here. So whether you use Bosal or you use Pellon, you know, you're going to have this type of effect, because both of those interfaces will give you this type of result. And Pellon is a pretty good blend as well. I didn't find any, and it's a little difficult to find because it is a kind of a specialty type interface. I didn't see it in Amazon. There isn't too many quilt shops around here, so I kind of had to just order it online. And I actually got this, gosh, it's been sitting in my stash for at least a couple of years, and I purchased this from Crafty Gemini, who sells them. But you can purchase them directly. They have them from Pellon, they have it in Bosal, you know, there's different ones out there. I just like this one because it's one of my favorite brands that I use when I'm making my bags. I like the Bosal, I like the Pellon too, so I kind of just use them both. But this one is really a nicer one. And it's pretty low price. I think it was around $12, $15 or so. So it's, you know, it's not bad. It does give you a big size. It is 62 by 18 inches. Of course, it's 100% polyester. So great fun project to do. I call it a little magic. And if you are working with kids and they're learning to sew from you, this is really a lot of fun to show them, because they definitely love to see this, especially to see the little magic on how the fabric gathers. And I'm going to show you that in just a few minutes. I'm going to give you a little demo of what it looks like. So let's see. Oh, Jackie's saying, what is that Pellon name again? So I have my little Pellon retail guide, and guys, you can download this from the Pellon website. I like to have this on hand, and I put it into my little covers here. Told you guys these are available at the dollar store. I like to hang all my little reference guides, color charts, things like that. Has a nice little loop. I added this little clip here. Makes it very easy to find my stuff. So on the Pellon retail guide, let me just look at specialty. Under the specialty products, it's called P Magic Fabric Magic. And I'll show you that on their guide. So this is a great guide to have, just because I like to look up, you know, if I'm looking to make a specific type of bag or product, I like to just go and look up the interface to see which one would be the best one. And sometimes, you know, I'm not sure if it's the 101, SF101, or was it called something else? So I like to keep these with me, and it kind of breaks it down into specialty products. It also has a section for embroidery, specialty interfacing, fusible webs and adhesives, backing, laminates. You know, it breaks it down into different sections, and it just makes it very easy to find. So website is www.pellonprojects.com. This is the Pellon retail guide. Just download it, totally free. I like to print it out and keep it on hand, and I like to keep it with all my reference items. So good thing to have if you don't have that and you use a lot of interfacing, because sometimes, you know, if they're out of Bosal, you know, then I can look up to see what the equivalent is on Pellon, and, you know, so on and so forth. So great thing to have. So let's talk about threads, because I used the invisible thread when I made the bag, because I really couldn't find a thread that really worked well with the project and didn't have the look that I wanted on this project. So I did have to go out and get some invisible thread, and it got me thinking, like, well, you know, how do you really work with invisible thread? because it's definitely a little different than just your normal cotton thread. So one of the things you'll notice, I know it's called invisible thread. It is invisible, and I can tell you just from experience, you know, when you're threading or trying to find the thread to start off this little spool here, it's called invisible thread, and it's really invisible thread because I had a really hard time trying to find the beginning of this thing. So definitely, you know, something to work with when you have a lot of patience, okay? So this is the one that I purchased, and this is Sulky Invisible. It is a, let's see, extra light, soft, strong, heat tolerant, and monofilament. Now this is suggesting the needle size between 60 and 90. It's 0.004 fine. So let me just give you a close-up of their labels here. You can see that. So invisible thread is, there's two types that are out there. So you have the clear one, which is the one that I'm showing you now, but you also have one that's called Smoky. Love that name, right? And I couldn't find it in the Sulky brand. They were all out because Joann's is actually having a sale on the threads. It was buy 3, get 3 free. So I was able to get the clear, but I could not find the Smoky under the Sulky brand. But I did find it under a different brand. And, well, actually, this is Sulky too, but it's a different size. So this one is a smaller one. I'm trying to find the end of it. Of course, it is invisible, so it is difficult to see, but I'll just show it to you like this. So it's called Smoky. It is invisible thread. And when you go to sew with this thread, it literally kind of disappears from your fabric. So you'd want to use the Smoky when you're using a dark fabric, which I could have done with this. But I decided to just go ahead and try it with a clear. So I did, and I liked the way it came out, so I was totally fine with it. But I definitely could have used this Smoky thread because the fabric that I have selected is dark. So how do you use these types of threads? Well, these types of threads are just a little bit different than when you would use your normal threads. So when you're using these threads, you want to, one, adjust your tension. Make sure it's a little bit looser, because you definitely don't want to use the same tension as you would with a regular cotton thread with this thread. Why? Because it's going to break on you and you're going to have a very hard time. And a lot of people kind of cringe when they hear invisible thread. Oh, I had such a hard time with it. And usually it is because they do not adjust their tension. All right, so when I first started working with this, I didn't realize that I had to adjust my tension, and my tension was pretty tight for what this was. And of course, it started breaking on me. So once I saw that a couple of times, I knew something's got to be wrong. And so I started to adjust the tension, and it did the trick. So you definitely want to adjust your tension, make it a little bit looser. You can kind of play with it, you know, as you're doing your swatches, you know, play with the tension on your thread as well. So definitely something that you want to do as part of your prep work. Now, another thing, and this is a little tip that I did, and I kind of like to use this. So a lot of people or sewists out there will have this little sew netting. You know, kind of space it out here. So we've got these little nettings, and a lot of people don't even use them, or they just kind of put them to the side. Not sure what this is for, but one of the good uses that you can have with this is when you are using invisible thread. Another great thing to do is to kind of put this inside of the net. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, what this is going to do is it's going to apply a little bit of tension. And one of the problems when working with this type of thread is that the thread kind of loops all over the place. Like it's polyester, it's monopoly actually. It's just kind of will go all over the place and will wrap around your machine if you let it. All right, so this kind of keeps it controlled. It gives it a little bit of tension, and it makes sure that the thread is going through the machine where you want it to go. If you don't put the netting on here, you may see it wrap around your machine and get stuck, and then it will tighten up and your thread will break. So you definitely want to be able to grab some of these nets. A lot of people have them. They either come with your machine, or if you're into embroidery, sometimes when you're buying the threads, they do come in that too. And you can just kind of grab this to use it to help with the tension on there. So it will definitely hold that in place, and it will help keep that going. Okay, so let's see. Oh, so Jackie's saying that the Pellon retail guide is $22.99. No, I got this right offline and I just was able to download it. So I think if you Google, and I'll see if I can find the link because I did this like a really long time ago, but I'll find you guys the link and I'll put it on the description for you. There is a free guide that you can just download, and it's just showing all of their products on there. So let me get you that information and I'll put it on the link below for you guys. So it's a great reference tool to have. I've had it for a really long time and just continue to use that whenever I have questions on like my interfacing and things like that. So I will get this for you, totally free, of course, and I'll put it out on the site for you guys. But thank you, Jackie. And maybe there's some type of other retail guide that they're referring to, but I'll get that out for you. Okay, let's see. Robin says, I Googled interface guide and it popped up. It's free, but it's 12 pages. Yes, it's pretty long. It's pretty long, Robin. There are quite a number of pages on here. Let me see if it has page numbering on it. No, it doesn't have page numbers, but yeah, it's quite a lot. But I do like to just printed it, stapled it. I keep it on hand. Another thing you can do, I picked this up at Joann's the other day. They have these kind of hanging in the stores, and this is like a little kind of summary of their guide. So this is their Pellon product guide, and they have it all colored, coded, and you know, it's broken down by apparel, crafts and fabrics. You've got quilting, embroidery, fusible webs, and crafts and home decor. So you can pick this up from Joann's. That's totally free as well. They just kind of have them hanging there. So I picked one up and just kind of threw it into my little stash of interfacing guide. And this is pretty much the same thing. It's the Pellon product guide. And it has kind of the same information. This is just kind of like a summarized version. So this 12-page guide has a little bit more detailed information for you, but I'll see if I can get that over for you. Okay, let's see. Who else do we have here? Oh my gosh, you guys are having a great time. Awesome. Alrighty, so the threads. Let me go back to my notes, see if I missed anything. So definitely adjust your tension for your threads. Don't rush on this when you are threading and running your lines through here. Don't force the machine to go fast. Take your time, do your lines, do your little swirls. You know, don't do a straight line. You know, it's a lot of fun. So, you know, take your time with that. Okay, bobbins. A lot of questions of the bobbins on this. Some people say, don't thread this into a bobbin. Some people say it's okay to. What is the real story? So a lot of people will tell you, do not do a bobbin with the invisible thread. Why are they telling you that? Because the bobbin thread will have a lot of issues, or can have a lot of issues, and will get all tangled up in your machine. And the person who's actually servicing your machine is not going to be very happy when they are having to untangle invisible thread from your machine. So can you use it as a bobbin? Yes, technically you can. Would I? No, I would not. What I would use is this as my top thread, and then I would just use a coordinating cotton thread on the bottom. So in this case, let's say in this, I could use my invisible thread on the top and a white thread on the bottom, because you're not going to really see the bobbin thread as much. So I wouldn't want to use invisible thread as a bobbin thread, although you can run into issues, and I can tell you that the person that's servicing your machine is probably not going to like you very much at that point. But it can be done. If you decide to wind your bobbin using the invisible thread, do so very slowly, very carefully. You do not want to rush doing that step. And here's why. So your thread, the invisible thread, is a polyester or monopoly. It has a little bit of a stretch to it. So if you think about when you wind your bobbin, you're putting your foot down on that pedal and that thing is just whipping around and loading up your bobbin. What's happening at that point is this thread is actually stretching. And so you have a stretched thread that is going around in your bobbin. And when you finish winding the bobbin, that thread is going to relax. So it will now come back in. So you'll see where that can then become an issue in your bobbin case. So that's why a lot of people say, do not use invisible thread. Don't wind it up as your bobbin. Just use it as the top. But yes, you can. Although I would recommend, if you decide to do it, then when you do wind your bobbin, you do it very slowly so you don't stretch the thread very much. You want to keep the thread kind of in its natural state. I don't want to have that pulling motion on the thread, because when it relaxes, what's going to happen is the thread is not going to be on top. It's going to sink into the middle, so it could possibly jam when you're trying to sew. So can you do it on your bobbin? Yes, you can, very carefully. Would I recommend doing that? No. I would stay away from putting it on the bobbin. I would just use it as my top thread. So that's just my opinion on the invisible thread. Now, of course, you do you, right? If you want to go ahead and use this as a bobbin, you can. Just do it very carefully when you're winding it, and just go very slowly on the machine. Okay, that's the advice that I would give to anyone who is thinking of using this thread. Now, we talked about the invisible thread. There are two types. You have your nylon, which is pretty old. A lot of people are kind of moving away from the nylon because it's very brittle. You know, it would break easy. And with time, those nylon threads turn yellow after a while. So just a note for that. Now, nylon thread, it's heat sensitive and sometimes can melt with the heat of the iron. So you kind of want to stay away from nylon if you're doing this type of a project. So that's why the polyester or the monopoly is a better thread to use for this type of project. You want to use it with you can use a 90-14 needle. That's kind of like the recommended sign. I did use an 80-12 needle and it worked perfectly fine. So 90-14 if you have it. I was just kind of like being lazy and I didn't want to change out my needle, so I used my 80-12 and it did come out just fine. But 90-14 has that the eye that's a little bit wider, so it allows the thread to flow a little freer on there. It'll make a little bit bigger hole onto your fabric, but you know, it should be fine. So that's how I did my project. Let's see if I missed anything here. Let's see. We talked about the smoky. It's an iridescent thread. You would use it the same way you would the clear. So same tips that I gave you for the clear is what you would use for your smoky thread. And those are the little tips that I have for you for this type of project. So do you guys want to see what it's like when you are creating this little thing? I think it's a lot of fun. Well, let me just check real quick if you guys have anything. Oh, Donna, I have an inkjet printer, so it costs practically nothing to print color copies. Awesome. I have an ink tank for many years. I would never go back to print cartridges. I also print on fabric with my inkjet. Awesome, Donna. Love it. I want to see those projects. Alrighty. And she says, I have a wide format 11 by 17 scanner printer with inkjet. Wow, I can scan an image and print fabric in 11 by 17 size. I usually sew the printed fabric onto another piece of a larger fabric. Nice, Donna. Certainly would love for you to share those with us. So I know Donna is one of our subscribers that does use our Facebook group, and she posts a lot of her amazing projects. So check them out if you haven't already. Okay, so let's get this going because I'm really excited to show you this. I'm gonna set up for this. Let me move some stuff over to the side. So let me just grab my little mat here. And if you remember, here's the fabric. This is what the interface looks like. And I'm just gonna do a small swatch. So I have a blue and white one here, and let me just pull this over to the side. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, the webbing, in case someone was looking to make this, I did just purchase the webbing here. The webbing that I used for this is about 1 inch, just to do the little straps. But again, you know, you can make the straps yourselves, you can make them out of fabric, you know, however you'd like. Really cute. All right, so let me just plug in my iron here. And let's get this heated up. Of course, you guys know I love my iron. So a lot of fun on this. So I am going to take a little scrap of fabric that I have from my leftover stash. And I already went ahead and I sewed some little waves onto the fabric and the interface. So on the back, you have your Bosal Stitch and Steam. And then on the top, I do have my fabric. And now I am going to hit it with the iron. And let's see. Hold on here. Yep, it's going. Let me move this over. And I'm going to be, as soon as this thing heats up, I am going to go ahead and hit it with the iron. Now, I'm not going to iron directly onto the fabric. I am only going to steam it. So I am just going to kind of hover over this fabric, hit the little steam button, and you're going to see the magic of this thing. It's going to just kind of crinkle up and create this really crazy looking fabric, which I think is so much fun. So let's see here. I feel like it is pretty hot, but I'll just give it another minute. I do have some water in my iron for the steam, but some people don't like to put the water inside their iron and they just kind of spray it and then, or put a little cloth to create that steam. You can do that as well. I find working it this way just kind of works for me. So I like to do it like this. So let's see now. I think my iron is kind of hot. Let me move this over. I do have this wool mat is what I am using, which is great for this type of surface. Alrighty, now, don't know how this is going to work with the steam and the camera and stuff, so hopefully you guys will be able to see some of this. So you can see it's pretty flat. And I'm going to go ahead and pick this up and let's start applying some steam. And you can see how it's already kind of picking up the fabric and it's shrinking it down. So remember, you can expect to have at least about a 30% shrinkage on your project. But here's the trick. The shrinkage that you're going to have is going to be different every time because it really depends on how you sewed your lines. So remember when we were talking about how wide or narrow your stitches are, the narrower your stitches are, you're not going to have too much of a fluff in between. The wider will create more of that bubble. So you will definitely need to play around with this. And I'm going to just do it a couple more times here. And you can see the steam going all over the place. So you can see how I now have this little crinkly looking little swatch. And I think it's just so cool. And, you know, the kids love it. They see it and it's like, oh, it's like magic to them. It's like, wow, you know, the fabric actually shrunk. So you can see my swatch. I didn't measure it before, but it was, let's see, I would have to say maybe about 5 by 6. And it's definitely a lot smaller. So I can tell you that I did measure when I was doing the bag. I had about a fat quarter size. So it was about maybe 18 by 22 inches. And when I went ahead and hit it with the steam, I lost about 4 inches on both sides. So that's how much you can, you know, kind of lose in terms of shrinkage. So you really have to think about, you know, what you're making before you cut your fabric out, because you have to know that you are going to have this shrinkage. But the shrinkage will, again, all depend on how many lines you've drawn and, you know, how close together they are, because the fabric is going to gather and shrink. So it's really a lot of fun. It's a little magical. Kids love to see this, you know, when you do it. I'm going to hit it with the steam one more time. And it didn't look like it changed this time, so this was about it. So what I like to do is just kind of hit it, wait a minute, let it cool a little bit, look to see, you know, are there some areas that maybe I have missed? If there are, I just kind of hit it again. And if you don't see it shrink anymore, then that means it's pretty much it for where it's at. But you can see if I pull on it, there's no way I'm going to be able to get this fabric back to its original state. There's just no way. It's going to be in this crinkled state. So definitely, you know, gives that little texture that you're looking for on your project. So instead of just having just a plain fabric on any of your bags or any of your projects, you have this now little textured, fun little design that, you know, will really show onto your little project. So I really love this. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's something that, you know, you don't get to do all the time, and it's just something that you get to show the kids. They think it's amazing. You know, it's just a fun project to make. So I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Let's see. I see a couple of comments on here. Everyone seems to like it. It's definitely magical. Yes, crafting with Robin. Definitely magical. And that's what the kids usually say. Woo, magical. Let's see. So 1 minute tip, she said, look at the texture that it adds. This is awesome. It can really give depth to a project in some cases. Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I love about this. You can really change your fabric. So not only did I have a fabric that had all these crazy colors in it, but now I added this texture to it. So it really can change the look of your project, which is so much fun to do. Awesome. Judy said, never heard of this or seen it. Love it. Thanks. Oh, great. I'm glad. Well, it's definitely something that you will have a lot of fun using. It has been around for a really long time. I think people kind of just forget that it's out there. And, you know, I think it's just really fun to use. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this session. I really love to make all kinds of projects. And if you guys do use the Bosal Stitch and Steam, or if you go ahead and you get the Pellon brand or make any projects, please share it on our Facebook page because I would love to see what you guys make. Oh, thank you, Barika Sewing and Crafts, for that super chat. Awesome. Annette said, I did enjoy it. Awesome. I'm glad. And Robin says, great demo. Donna says, yes, it does look like it's a rough texture. Yeah, it's, you know, and I don't know if the camera really does a lot of justice to this because it's kind of hard to kind of show you because of these crazy colors. And I think kind of when I angle it a little bit, you can see it a little more. But it is just so much fun. I really have a lot of fun with this fabric. I just love how it kind of crinkles up. So definitely something that you can play with and do all kinds of fun projects. So I hope you guys really enjoyed today's session. Thank you all so much for joining, and I hope to catch you on the next one. And I hope to be crafting with you soon. Bye, everyone.